It did not take a week to come back, but hey, now I have a ton of time to edit and read Legend of Max and write. Plus I got a strike on my main channel for some old edgy videos, so it took extra time to be able to upload this video. Anyway, let's start now because it took me like 3 weeks to upload part 2. Pre-Viking Escape. After the guide ate the mana flower, he gained the ability to be a wizard, which was pretty cool, but a flower talks to him now, in his brain. He went into the village of people where everybody's at, including new characters, the merchant and the demolitionist, but the flower was annoying him and he kept talking to it. The nurse brought him away to ask him what the problem was, and he tells her about a flower that kept talking to him. After that, Max being Max makes a rope because he heard that he was a wizard, which Cyril regrettably wears. He doesn't really want to do it. And then June starts laughing at all of them hysterically, and the nurse confronts her about this because she was being an asshole. Basically, June calls everyone that she's working with stupid and leaves. Also, this Naiad guy is introduced, and I really like him right now, but he's not important for this chapter. Since Max still needs a sword, he decides that he'll go out and get the ice sword with Ailey, Cyril, and Hannah. Cyril gets better at using magic at night by making some bunnies. Max runs into goblins the next day, and they finally arrive in the ice biome. This is where Max and Cyril almost immediately started arguing, and they argue so loud that an avalanche comes down and hits them all, bringing them all underground. Ailey uses their weird big light beam thing and makes all of the snow go away, because he can just do that, so that they can start traveling in a direction. And it's really established that the world hates Cyril, like really established. Like, just look at this shit. Because of the goblins, I think I didn't save the image where the Flinks first attacks. The Flinks come out and attack our little gaggle of Terrarians, which caused them to understandably flee into what they thought was an underground house, when it was really a cursed Viking ship. Now they're stuck. Oh no! Max immediately tries to fight all the Vikings, and while he and everyone else succeed, they just get back up because they're undead. Later it's shown how much everyone's enjoying being on the cursed ship, especially Hannah, because she learns how to fight, which is sick. And this everybody includes everybody, of course, except Max, who's bored out of his mind. He goes on to try to help Cyril, but Cyril's beginning to dislike Max, which makes sense, and so Max leaves, and Cyril is called up by the captain of the Vikings, so that the captain can tell him about how to lift the curse. To do so, Cyril has to marry the captain's daughter, which is easy because the guy and the captain's daughter turn out to be super compatible because they're both big nerds. Before the wedding, Hannah hears about it and is jealous because she likes the guy, and Max thinks that Cyril's being forced to do things on his mind to save his friend. He goes to cut off the captain's daughter's head during the wedding. But since she and everybody else on board is undead, she's fine and nobody really minds. They get married and Ramil lifts the curse because he put it on all the Vikings. And then he sends every Viking to heaven, including the guy's new wife. Guidey is sad, they leave the ice biome, and that's the end of the chapter. Hannah's character doesn't really change, but she learns something important: how to fight. With this, she can hopefully become way more important and help others in battle, mostly Max. Also, Max supports Hannah's want to learn how to fight, which is nice. And as I said, other than the story making it now explicitly clear that Hannah likes a god, her character hasn't changed one bit. Cyril had a minuscule change in his character since he stands up for himself more and became fed up with Max's antics, showing that Cyril was beginning to hate Max because of how stupid he is. I think this has to do with him feeling more powerful due to him becoming a wizard and eating the mana flower. Also, Cyril becoming a wizard was really fitting for his character because of who he is, and he's been learning things quickly as well, as shown by him using a few different spells like fire and whatever this red one is. He also found love in this chapter, but as I said, the angel Ramil took that away from him, which sucks. Guidey's continued torture is never ending, and I really think that nothing good will ever happen to him, or at least a good that will persist for a good bit of time. Max and Ailey haven't changed at all, and the Dryad wasn't even in this part of the story because she got fed up and left. The Naiad guy is introduced, but I can't get much on how he is either, other than being impatient and a little stubborn. They also said that there's a spy in the village, and for some reason I feel like it's gonna be Ailey. I also forgot about the Goblin Tinkerer. He's really simple. He's just like some German scientist guy who screws up his inventions a lot. The visuals were actually pretty much the same quality as last chapter, except Jesse's a bit more dynamic with his character's expressions, and the comedy of this part is really good. Basically every joke made me laugh, and I think that this is a really good part. Pre-Muramasa. After our main characters, Max, Cyril, Ailey, and Hannah escape to the ice biome, they continue going westward until they reach the dungeon, where they meet the Naiad guy, who is seen in the Pre-Viking Escape section, and his name is Zane. Zane challenges everyone there to a fight, and he absolutely destroys every single person there effortlessly, and he throws them into the dungeon. He also killed the goblin leader and told the goblins to go where Max lives, which will be a problem later. Also, there's no skeleton in the story, I think. Max is being taken out of his cell by Zane, who then brings him to his boss, Xanarath. I don't know how to say his name. Max and Xanarath talk, and Max joins him to spread the corruption. Afterwards, Cyril and Hannah become desperate, and they send Ailey out to go find someone to help them, i.e. June, who very easily comes back to them after being annoyed by everybody around her purposefully, so that she'd go back to fighting because she sucks as a ruler. Anyway, June begins coming back. Cyril the guide unlocks the door using magic, but Zane was playing with them and watching them the whole time, which means that of course they wouldn't be able to escape. Zane stabbed Hannah in the chest behind the guide and made him really angry. He then instantly goes to being goofy again, because Zane's a fun villain. But anyway, before Zane kills the guy, June comes in with a plane and crashes into Zane, sending him far underground. Ailey brings Hannah back to life with pixie dust, and they begin going to Xanarath's room to get Max back. June and Xanarath actually talk for a little bit. June just keeps insulting him over and over, which was kind of funny. And then Max comes out. He's totally convinced to fight for the evil and corruption of the world, even donning the Naiad's armor. He goes to attack our NPCs, and he stabs Xanarath and takes his Muramasa. Max manipulated and tricked someone who lived for hundreds and hundreds of years because Max is smart, and he knew that for a fact he couldn't beat him. But before they can escape, Xanarath tries to capture and kill them with his water powers because he's a water spirit. Before two characters, Sophia and the Goblin Tinkerer, who are also separately trapped in a dungeon while they're trying to build something to escape, come through with their Wrenchinator and hit Xanarath, and they rescue everyone. Now they can go back home safely. Zane is a new main antagonist, I think, and unlike June, he's actually really fun to watch. Zane treats everything as if it's a game because of his incredible speed, skill, and power, which is made clear because of how he acts all the time. The only time his goofy character was broken was when he didn't expect Max to come with him so easily, and when he was attacked and put into the ground by June. Zane also, because of those reasons, is always in control, which adds to why he takes absolutely nothing seriously, because he knows how powerful he is. It's just really funny to watch a guy that could destroy all the main characters, including Max and excluding June, in a blink almost kill Hannah, and then instantly start talking about how he caught sand sharks to the guide. And then he started using them as weapons to kill the guide. This guy's just unpredictable, and every time he's on screen is a joy. Even though he always causes serious harm to our team every time, and even though he's super simple. Xanarath, his father, I think, is extremely chill at all times, even when he's constantly insulted by June, but his mellow attitude is broken when Max backstabs him. I don't have much to say about him other than that though. Sophia was also introduced, and she seemed super duper simple as well. She's always cheery and she's pushy as well when it comes to her inventions and Gus, but I can't really talk about her character in depth due to how small of time she's gotten so far. The Goblin Tinkerer is also more showcased here, but from what I can tell, he's the same as Sophia, but reasonable in the usual straight man archetype. June came back to the crew, and she's pretty much the same. Some history was told about her past with Xanarath, since she was in a relationship with him before he backstabbed the Dryad and started a war with him. At least this time around though, June was more fun to watch, probably because of the situation and the fact that she wasn't there for too long. Max hasn't changed except for his weird ability to manipulate people really well into believing that he's something that he's not, obviously shown by making creatures that live for centuries think that he was on their side, plus his general smarts or common sense into realizing that altogether they have no chance of beating Xanarath. Sometimes I think that Max is pretending to be stupid at times because of how good he is at things other than basic thinking. Both the visuals and comedy improved from the last part, especially with the new character Zane, who's always fun to watch on screen. Before the boat was built, our main characters Ellie, Max, Cyril, Hannah, June, Gus, and Sophia escape the dungeon and they start heading home. The Dryad tries to fly a big dirt plane home, but her powers have been waning because of the seal on the hollowed. Anyway, they make it home eventually, and then they see the goblins have taken over their home peacefully because the merchants sold the village to them. Oh no! Well, not really, oh no, because the goblins aren't that bad, and they're living a peaceful life, which is nice. Now to get the fiery greatsword, the Dryad gives everyone directions on what they must do next. Go across the eastern ocean, past the desert, and go to hell and find the fiery greatsword. Over the course of a few days, everyone pitches in to help build the boat. Sophia, because she's insane, adds some weird stuff like an ice cream machine, a rock climbing wall, Actually, I think that was suggested by Max. And the head of an evil entity that forgot everything about its want to destroy and enslave everything ever so it can drive the boat. Then they also added a catapult, which is important, I swear. I don't know why she put that on there when there's a cannon on the bottom, but it's whatever. The boat's finished by this point and they begin their journey to the east. Now I can describe Sophia way more easily. She's insane but really fun to watch because of her insanity. She comes up with absurd, incomprehensible ideas and weird ideas like her Zen garden with the oscillate on the boat and the deuterium generator that uses deuterium to make deuterium, and other ideas that should never work like her wrenchinator in the last chapter. She also never changes in character in any situation and is hyper fixated on Gus, I assume because he's similar to her. And it's also a nod to the fact that in the original game the Goblin Tinker and the Mechanic both have crushes on each other. Although in here it's one-sided because Gus doesn't want to be around Sophia because she's insane. She's also really childish because of her imagination, which is a big contrast with the fact that she's a mechanic. All these factors combined should make her annoying, but it doesn't because the comic's well written up to this point now. Gus I still can't describe because he's basically the German scientist. His accent's weird because no other goblins have a German accent. But basically he fills the same role as Sophia, except he isn't insane and he's grounded in reality. Other stuff also happened, like Max explaining his true feelings about being the chosen one to the guide, which was a weird moment of Max being an understandable and kind of complex protagonist. So far he's just been the goofy guy that does funny stuff. And after this he resumes doing goofy stuff, but throughout the story it's been clear that Max is actually smarter than he lets on. His battle smarts, his outlook on life, his ability to manipulate, and most recently with his desires. I really can't tell if Max is pretending to be stupid because it's fun for him, or if he's actually smart and is being annoying to everyone for his enjoyment. If it's the latter, then he's evil, but I have no idea. He could also just be dumb, which I'd be fine with, but it could be any one of those things. Pre-Firey Greatsword. Final 100 pages, here we go. And since these are the final 100 pages, I'll try to cover literally everything that I just read in the order of the information presented in the story. Right after the boat's built, we start with Zane declaring that they'll go find Max and the gang, and Max's boat is finally launched after being built up for so long. They hit a rock basically immediately, and then Sophia shoots the rock with her cannon on the bottom of the boat to get rid of it, creating a crater in the ocean somehow and pushing them all the way back to the dock because of how powerful the cannon was. Zane of course immediately sees this and boards their ship and instantly stabs the guide because Zane doesn't play around, and he was preparing to kill Max until June stepped in. Suddenly, a year-long time skip happened because the creator took an 11-month break. Max and Sarah are in the desert looking for the pyramid to get the fiery greatsword, but the directions that the dye trader Abdul gave them were wrong and Max was reading them upside down the whole time. June and Hannah are also with the dye trader, by the way, and June now has black hair because of the dye. Max and Guidey run back to Abdul pissed because the directions were wrong. But before they do anything to him, they freshen up. Then they accuse him because his directions were that bad. But he isn't, and June still makes him lead them to the pyramid because they still have to make the Knight's Edge to unlock the Hollowed and stuff. Also, Sophia, Gus, and Ellie are on an island right now, far away from the main gang. Anyway, they find the pyramid and it's floating. It comes crashing down, and they just happen to be in the perfect spot as to where the hole is on the bottom so they don't get crushed. They meet the lizard people, and then Max touches one of them for a pinky swear that he won't tell anyone of their existence, and then the purple lizard person clings on to Max for his body heat. And the other lizard people do the same. And also the lizard people can dig all the way down to hell with their crazy advanced technology. So for them to do that, they take Abdul for his body heat. Why they don't just make a fire or something is totally beyond me, but the laser starts digging downward so an elevator can be made. And while the laser's firing, they start shaking a lot. And everything around them is burning, so they can't go outside and do something else to wait either. So they literally just sit there for 4 hours shaking constantly, because that's how long it takes for them to make the elevator. Come back to where Sophia and Gus are, and whoa, Zane's here! He's chilling with them right now until Sophia makes a boat for them. He tells them about the Vikings that he killed, which were the same Vikings back in the Pre-Viking Escape times. He killed everyone on that ship and sunk it instantly because he's scarily fast. And then, Ramil cursed the Vikings. They stayed underground for hundreds of years, and Sarah marries a daughter of the leader of the Vikings, Ina, and breaks her curse, which lets them all pass on to the afterlife. Now we're in heaven with all the Vikings, but most importantly Ina, because she just lost the love of her life, Cyril, because she was already dead, so she had to go to heaven. She's obviously angry about this, so she brings up her problem to Ramil, who originally put the curse on them. And he also promised that she could stay on Earth with her new husband, but I guess he just forgot about it. I don't know. She asked him to be sent back to Earth so that she could be with our guide again, but Ramil had no idea who she even is, even though he saw her 15 minutes ago. Are you saying you don't recognize me? Yeah, basically, should I? Are you one of Uriel's friends or something? Did we use a date? You gotta give me a few hints here. No, we did not use a date. How do you not know who I am? We just saw each other 15 minutes ago. You were at my wedding. Oh right, you're that Viking girl. Well listen, to you, all that stuff just happened recently, but to me, it was different. Thanks to Quantum or something. It was probably like, at least a long time ago. Oh, are you saying that angels perceive time differently than mortals? Huh? What? Oh, I don't know, I guess. Sure, why not? So, are you gonna leave or... After Ramil continues not to take her issue seriously, he eventually decides to turn off his TV because she wouldn't go away, and he decided to just walk with Ina to tell her about the grief and other angel stuff. Basically, the grief was a reset of all of existence, including all angels, and Ramil's one of the replacements of the angels. It's just some interesting lore stuff that doesn't really matter to the bigger part of the story. And then Ramil eventually takes her to the Archives of Truth, which was a thing way back in the day, like page 54 or something, like that old. And the Archives of Truth is where information about everything ever is stored, and she starts reading the books so that she can learn about the rules of being dead and stuff, so that she can go back to her husband. She also sees Tyrone, who's traumatized by everything horrible that ever happened to him. Worse than the guy, since every day he came back he was killed by something, and that something became Zane consistently in worse and worse ways. So cause the angels are cool, they just let him chill up there cause he's freaking traumatized. Kind of a sad character. I'll talk about him later because he gets treated the absolute worst out of anyone, and he doesn't deserve it. After all of that, we go back to the heroes, and the elevator's done. They get jetpacks. June jetpacks beeps a lot, but that's nothing to worry about, and they jump down. The longest panel of Legend of Max ever, and we've just made it to hell. June's out even though technically she's fine, and then we go back into her mind where we flash back to what happened on the ship a year ago when June was gonna fight Zane. They talk for a long time, not even all negative, and they begin fighting to the death. Currently they're equally matched, and then June kicks Zane into water, which made a hole into the ship. The ship started flooding, and since the Naiad are water spirits and stuff, he came out of the water real easy. They keep fighting equally until Zane starts getting bored and throws a poison shuriken at Max, and the poison he uses takes mana away from him until he dies, because everything in the world is made from mana. That's how everything exists. Zane and the Dryad keep fighting until Zane starts going more crazy because he's having a lot of fun, and then he realizes that him and the Dryad aren't anywhere near the same amount of power, and Zane goes for the killing hit on the Dryad until the Zen Garden activates, which gets rid of everyone's negative feelings and emotions. Zane is totally neutralized in this environment because the only thing he feels is hate, which is obviously a negative emotion, so he's pretty much a vegetable right now and isn't a threat. Since there's currently no threat, June starts giving mana to Max because Cyril can't do it, and she also wants to believe in something, and also Cyril can't do it because he's not a good wizard at all. The Ocelot touches the Zen Garden, which turns off its effect, and it begins merging with random things across the universe, mostly the Ocelot and the Shark, until Duke Fishron is created. June gave too much mana for her to walk anymore, but Max can get up now, and he's a little stronger, and Zane starts fighting Duke Fishron. Since they all think that either Duke will kill Zane or Zane will kill Duke, everyone starts thinking of ways to get off the boat, because it's flooding. Sophia puts Cyril, Max, Hannah, and June into the catapult, and then launches them to the eastern shore, and Sophia and Gus are left on the ship with Zane. Also, Ellie's there in case you forgot about them. Sophia suggests that Zane gets into the catapult with them for some reason, and he's like, "No, I have my own ship, doofus!" And then his ship gets atomized, and he's like, "Alright, let me get into the catapult." But he breaks it and hits Duke Fishron straight upwards, causing him to barrel back downward to the ship, tipping it quickly and catapulting them to the west, which is why they're on some jungle island. Cut back to where Max and Co are. June's super old now because her power went away when she gave Max her mana. And the final scene of Legend of Max is when June loses all of her clothing. The end for Legend of Max. For now, of course. Well, we've come a long way from where we began. I mean, both of these videos combined are probably like 40 minutes long, which is the longest video I've ever made. These 20-minute videos are actually the longest videos I've ever made, I think. I mean, the Salted Egg Temple comes close, but anyway, now I can describe every single character that did something important from when we met them to now, starting with Max. Of course we had to start with Max, he's the main protagonist. Max started as a stupid guy trying to have fun, and ended up as a guy that wants to have fun, but is always crippled by the amount of responsibility he has because he's the chosen one. He's the only one that can save the world. At the start, Max didn't understand what exactly that meant, because he never took anything seriously. He was always just trying his best to have fun without a care in the world, but once things got serious, he kept his same attitude, even with the burden of being the chosen one. Plus, Max knows he has to be way more serious because players don't respawn, and the fact that Max's life was the only truly in danger twice, when Zane was beating his ass and when Zane threw the shuriken at him, it also made the story's fights feel way more tense, since Max wasn't always constantly on the brink of death every single battle that he participated in. Or at least it made Zane feel way more scary, because he could just kill Max at any moment. Anyway, enough about that. Max and Cyril's relationship has never been mutually friendly, but it certainly didn't start the way it ended off. It's clear that they both became increasingly fed up with each other as the story continued. And this dislike for each other really began when they first entered the ice biome, where they had a big argument for the first time. Honestly, it was sort of sad to see these two dislike each other more and more as the story continued, but I understand it. Max is annoying and stupid all of the time, and basically the polar opposite to Cyril. And of course, nobody would like him realistically. But is Max really stupid? With everything that he said in the story and his actions, he's actually had some moments of understandableness and intelligence, like his outlook on the world, how he deals with being the chosen one, and his tactics for defeating enemies, like the Eater of Worlds and Xanarath. Two enemies far more powerful than him, not to mention even early on when he knew that he was outmatched or not, or what to do in a sticky situation like when he made the hammers to defeat that skeleton. Like I said earlier, maybe he's not stupid. Maybe he has the intelligence of a normal person, or he's really smart, and he just acts stupid because that's how he copes with being the chosen one. His attitude and happiness also changed as the story went on. Max used to be too stupid to comprehend and be offended by insults, but now insults seem to hurt his feelings every once in a while. I think that as the writing got better, Max became a more complex character, which applies to basically only Max himself, because Max became a better character as the story went on. That's just what needed to happen anyway. He could not just be a one-dimensional stupid guy for the entire story. Cyril starts off as a basic straight man archetype and barely develops into the smart guy, big quotation marks. Throughout the story, Cyril goes through a lot, and it's absolutely true that the universe hates him. Even at the start when he's killed by zombies, to a little later to when he loses his wife, which was his biggest loss and made his character change into more of a pessimist than he was before. After this, he also loses his crush on Hannah, which makes sense because he has a fucking wife now. As the writing gets better, it becomes clear that his pessimism and cowardice certainly contrasts Max's everything, which makes them fight a lot. The relationship continues to worsen and worsen as the story goes on, which is sort of unfortunate, like I said earlier, although it's understandable given what Cyril goes through day to day even without Max. And then to be annoyed constantly by Max's stupid antics really just adds on to it. At the start, he's a completely underwhelming guy without any feats or abilities to his name, and the only thing he had going for him was his knowledge. And by the end, he's still an underwhelming guy without any feats to his name, and he's a guy that should be powerful due to him being a wizard, but he isn't because he sucks. I said smart guy in quotations because I don't think the guy is smart. I think he's just a guy that knows a lot of things, which is not the same as being smart. That's just a part of being smart. It's not actually being smart. If he was smart, then he would have went through a massive character arc and a massive character change when he gained his magical powers. He probably would have caught on to them quickly as well if he was smart, and realized that he can finally stop cowering in fear because he has power now, and his fear of water would go away because he can literally walk on it as the flower said he could. And then he could actually be a freaking asset to the team, maybe even be almost as powerful as June. But the only spells that Cyril used ever was his door opening spell, his bunny summoning spell, and whatever this red one is, and his fire, which for some reason he never used offensively. To his credit, he did also use a banish spell to banish the undead, which I guess is kind of cool, but he did learn that by going through a book, and he never uses any cool spells again, even though that book has a lot of spells in it, which makes no sense. The guy could have easily helped way more in the fight against Zane by maybe using a spell to slow him down or something, like more gravity on him, I guess. But because he isn't smart and a coward, all he did was summon a giant bunny on top of a guy who moves so fast they can't even register that he's moving. Cyril became more of a complex character, but for where we are in the story right now, all he does is argue with Max, say pessimistic things and big words, to usually be immediately proven wrong by Max, June, or someone else, i.e. he's basically the worst character in this whole entire comic. but I still don't hate him for some reason. I just know that he's most certainly the worst and most useless main character in this story. Ramil is my favorite character in this entire comic because of his attitude and his personality. If you forgot about him, it's because he's hardly in this comic. He probably has like 50 pages. Not even, probably like 30. He's one of the angels that brings the NPCs up into the clouds and back down after the next day with a new body whenever they die. He doesn't have any empathy for anyone and doesn't care about anyone's issues, even the people that he brought up to heaven, like Ina, who he forgets about after 15 minutes. The lore of the angels is also pretty interesting, and I think the grief represents a Terraria world being deleted and a new one being made in its place. Just my headcanon. It also doesn't change throughout the story because of how little he's on screen for, but he was very fun to watch. He, or the other angels in general, have the ability to just take technology from the future, as shown when he gives Cyro the phone way early on so that he could talk with him, which he only ever did once. I think it was forgotten about. And it's shown again when he watches TV from 2 years in the future. This comic was made in 2018, by the way. Ramil is a simple but fun and interesting character to watch, and it's a shame that he was hardly in the story. You could sum it up as just a guy following orders from someone unknown. Although Ailey was introduced way early into the story before the Eye Cthulhu was defeated, their character barely changed throughout the story. I still can't really describe Ailey too much. All I can say is that they want to be important, but they never become important. Their role in the story is pretty much the backup weapon and healer, just in case. If all else fails, all they have to do is get Ailey to shoot the giant laser, which fails against Zane because he's so fast. Or if Hannah can't heal someone, they just get Ailey to heal them instead with their pixie dust. Even though they're the only character with their own text box, Ailey in the end didn't change much, and they're still not anyone's favorite character. Hannah barely changed as well as the story went on, but that's fine given how she's like. Not every character has to change drastically from the start to the end of the story. Just ones like Cyro that should have had an arc, should have had something to make them different, should have had something that makes them more interesting, so he can lose his cowardice or something. He's a wizard! It doesn't make any sense! The only thing that changed with her is the fact that she learned how to fight from the other Vikings. Of course, this wasn't very useful by this point because very soon after Zane was introduced, who was literally the strongest character in all of this comic. Plus the fact that Hannah's the only good person in this comic is a nice contrast to everybody else because no one else is. She actually wants to help people, which is why she became a medic. And she learned how to fight so that she could be more useful in the team. Her crush on Cyro also disappeared after Cyro's bride got sent to heaven because she was dead. Which is understandable because now Cyro's a married man, technically. Other than that, I feel like that there's not much else to say about Hannah without repeating myself a lot. She's nice, cares about how people feel, even June. Oh, June, the biggest asshole on the team. Originally, I hated June because she's a bigger pessimist than the guide and a bigger asshole than Max. She's incredibly powerful and she knows it. She bosses everyone around, but as the story continues, I begin to warm up to her a bit. I sort of understand why she's like that. Why she was an asshole to everybody and why she had no belief in Max up to the final fight with Zane. It's because she lived for 500 years and had to deal with so many adventures that were so similar to Max, eventually making her feel as if the whole chosen one thing was bullshit. But when she gave Max her man instead because she believed in him and finally decided to believe in someone instead of fighting Zane while he was weak in the Zen garden, it made me change my mind on her because she changed and began believing in Max. Now don't get me wrong, she's still a giant bossy asshole, but not to mention her whole want to release the Hollowed is specifically for her because she doesn't care about her people. She doesn't like them at all. Really, it's just so that she can still live and kill Zane and Zinarath for revenge. She's certainly not a hero. I could sympathize with her a little bit more. How she acts doesn't change throughout the story, and I think that she became more likable than before due to the fact that Jessie became a better writer as Legend of Max went on. If you already read Legend of Max and you still hate June, then I get it, cause she sucks. And she's my second least favorite character, first being Cyro. I just think that she grew impatient a long time ago and is going about it in the worst possible way. Gus. Gus the Goblin Tinker is probably the character with the least character in the story. Even less than Ailey, who's pretty much just the neutral straight man. He, instead of the guide, is the smart guy that makes stuff. The biggest thing about him doesn't even have to do with himself, and it's Sophia's odd attachment to him. There really isn't anything to say. Imagine Sophia but lame, and the guide but not an asshole. Zane's my second favorite character in the entire comic. He's the late main antagonist and villain introduced in the Pre-Muramasa part. His only goal is to allow the spread of the corruption and to stop the main heroes, which he has no problem doing every time he encounters them. The only reason why he ever can't do it is when June gets some sort of cheap shot on him, or when he doesn't know where they are. He doesn't change at all throughout the story because it wouldn't make sense for him to change, because of the fact that he's always been this way for hundreds of years, as evident by his attitude when he killed the Vikings, and also he was only in the story late, so it would be weird to try to cram in some weird character arc with Zane. Zane is an unpredictable, insane menace who's infamous for killing thousands of people thanks to his incredible speed, technique, and power. He'll even kill his own men just because he felt like it, or he'll kill someone just because he said something that he doesn't like. Even then, he likes playing with his victims before killing them. Like when he was gonna kill Cyril with the shark head hands. The only emotion he feels also is hate somehow, since he was totally neutralized in his Zen garden, which really is weird to me. Does he ever enjoy anything that he's doing, or is he just doing everything he does because it horrifies everyone else? That specific aspect of Zane interests me, because it seems that he has fun whenever he's fighting, so I think that he would at least be able to do something in his Zen garden, but maybe it cancels him out because he only has fun when he's hurting people. I don't know. Other than that specific aspect of his character, Zane is another simple, scary, and fun character that didn't get enough screen time due to how late he was introduced. Although I am kind of thankful for that, because if it was introduced in like the Eater Worlds era of Legend of Max, I'd probably have some negative things to say about him. Sophia, probably the most fun character in this whole comic. She's a simple-minded girl that makes insane stuff that shouldn't by any means or logic work, but it does. I can see now that she'd be the most useful character from here on out, not in fights, but in a way to get out of situations, as she got them as in all the main characters out of the dungeon, and she and Max made blueprints for the boat to get to the east. And she's currently working on a boat to get all the way back to the east, and also to bring Zane, I guess. Of course the boat flooded and failed, but that's only because Zane came on board, and the Dryad put a hole in it. Her character also never changes or breaks. At no point does she think logically or get sad about something. The most she does is panic when the Zen garden was turned off. Her imagination is wild as well, which is probably why she likes Gus so much, because Gus has a similar skill set as her, and he can help her make new ideas, but for the aforementioned reasons, he wants nothing to do with her. Poor Gus. All in all, she's really fun on screen, and she's one of the best characters in this comic. Tyrone in this comic goes through the absolute most, more than the god. Every day he's killed somehow, and due to him being the arms dealer embassy, he always responds. His cause of death was always random, which didn't seem to bother him much, but when Zane came out of the dungeon, every time he died was due to Zane. Zane killed him over and over in horrible ways, which traumatized him. The angels noticed this and let him chill up in the clouds for a bit, until he's ready to come back down to do his thing, which I assume will never happen. It's sad that this guy went from some weird ladies man to a broken man who even runs away from normal people in heaven. Truly, he's the saddest character in this comic, and that's a feat considering the fact that Cyril exists. These guys are pretty similar. The characters aren't deep and their interactions aren't thought-provoking or anything, but whenever they get a page, I always find it really fun to read. I'm very sad that there wasn't any sort of like 72 panel long comic for $599.5 though. Ina's pretty much the guide but a girl. She's an absolute nerd just like Cyril, and they got married to break the curse. Ramil originally promised that she could stay on Earth when she finally found her husband, but he forgot about it and sent her to heaven anyway. At this point, she brought it up the problem with Ramil, and you know what happened. Not enough of her was shown, since she was basically the thing needed to pass the Viking arc, but maybe if Jesse continues the story, we can see more of her. I do hope so that she somehow finds a book in the Archives of Truth that says that she can go back to Earth, because honestly, with how the world treats Cyril, and how he is in general right now, he really does deserve someone to love, so he has at least one thing that's good in his life. Here are my final thoughts. After reading all of Legend of Max, I can say that I enjoyed myself. The start was horrendously bad. The visuals suck, the characters are all simple as hell, and the comedy fails basically all the time. But if you give it a chance for like 140 pages and read it, it's good. I think that right there though is the main reason why Legend of Max isn't known as the great Terraria webcomic it later becomes. Its start is atrocious, just like Terraria's sort of underwhelming start, which makes people compare it to Minecraft when they first play, which is the most stupid fucking comparison anyone could ever make. You honestly wonder, like, why would anyone stick around to see if the story improves or stay the same? There's so many other stories that are greater than Legend of Max at the very start. The only reason I ever stayed was because I hoped that it would get better for like 4 months ago when I originally read it. And the only reason why I came back to it was because I knew that it got better, and because The Legend of Max popped into my mind a few weeks ago. But for a normal person, there's no reason to stick around, especially for how long it's bad for. After those like 140 pages though, the quality picks up in nearly every joke lands, except for the few references, because I don't get any of them. The bad start is definitely what killed Legend of Max for a lot of people, which is a shame because watching this slowly growing cast of characters go through this interesting version of the world of Terraria was incredibly fun. I was thinking about summarizing the entire story right here and now, but I don't feel like it. I mean, this video took long enough to come out, right? So all I ask now is that you like and subscribe, because I might talk about another Terraria webcomic called Mrs. Terraria Adventure, which will be the last webcomic or Terraria webcomic that I'd ever talk about, and it's one that I've seriously not heard of. Don't misconstrue this as me saying that that is what I'm going to do, because it most likely won't happen. But yeah, goodbye, and thanks everyone for not rushing me or whatever.